And that is correct. Live, ladies and gentlemen, which means canned rock music.
You know what? This canned rock music is going to outlast the Russell Wilson era.
Oh, man. Mace, we're here, man.
Not even 2 years.
I know.
You went down to Locke Miller's, you got a napkin
Uh-huh.
a few days ago. That's where it started, and right after we get back from the 2024 Scouting Combine, this is where it ends. Russell Wilson, no longer a Denver Bronco.
That's right, and we are here to break it down for you. It is orange and blue today. It is Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason, and it's official from the Denver Broncos. Quote, we spoke with Russell Wilson today to inform him of his release after the start of the new league year. On behalf of the Broncos, we thank Russell for his contributions and dedication to our team and community while wishing him the best as he continues his career. Mace, how did we get here?
How did we get here? It's a good question. We could do like 10 shows detailing how we got here.
Yes.
But the bottom line is that it didn't work in 2022 with Nathaniel Hackett. The Broncos brought in Sean Payton, and contrary to what a lot of people believe, Sean Payton did try to make it work. Did alter things to play to Russell Wilson's skill set and didn't pan out. And effectively what the Broncos have decided is that they would rather pay $85 million to not have Russell Wilson on the roster, $85 million in cap charges, than $112 million in cap charges to have him on the roster the next 2 years. That's what they decided.
Yes. Yep. The decision is here, and it is now. And Mace, any coincidence had to do after the combine? Like, hey, you want to trade for us? No. You want to trade for us? No. You want to trade for us? No. Okay.
You exhaust every possibility to get back something, even if it's tenths of a penny on the dollar. And then once that's done, you move on. The other thing also, and it's fair to say this, is coming out of the combine, do you have a plan? A long-term plan beyond Russell Wilson? Does that involve a quarterback that you may be drafting? It's funny to discuss this because I think the Broncos are going to add a quarterback here in the next 2 weeks that is a veteran. But I'll ask you this. Do you think it's a coincidence that they're making this announcement today when they get back from the combine, having met with a slew of the top quarterbacking prospects and having watched some of them throw in person over the weekend?
No, it was 100% like just making sure, you sit down in front of people, things get done. I wouldn't be surprised if a Justin Fields trade's already been made in agreement. We just don't know about it yet. Things get done at the combine. They looked around, asked around, as they should do, right? And then exhausted all options. This is the option they're left with, and now splitting it over 2 years instead of eating it all in one.
Yeah, and then it's a question of just how they split it. There are two possibilities. They could actually take a bigger hit this year and a smaller hit next year. $53 million this year, $32 million next year. Minus for this year, whatever offset there is if Russell Wilson signs anywhere else. That's probably going to be about $1.1 million, no more than that. So you're not getting that much relief. The other possibility is $35.4 million on this year's cap, $49.6 million on next year's cap. And actually, for this year's cap, in terms of the outlay, that means what you're devoting to Russell Wilson is unchanged by cutting him and doing it that way, because he was going to count $35.4 million on the cap, whether he was on the team or not. It's just that you're paying him not to be there. So just depends how the Broncos want to structure it. Some of it may depend on what kind of restructures and other moves they make here in the coming days, because this probably sets up a flurry of moves here between now and March 13th when the new league year begins. Of course, the legal tampering period begins on March 11th, but we may even see some moves, some I's being dotted, T's being crossed right up until the new league year begins a week from Wednesday.
For sure. And trust us, when we get to OBT2, we're going to unpack all of this, because Russ is the first domino, Mace.
Mm-hmm.
He is not the last. So there will be some others that'll likely be traded. That's what's coming. Again, OBT2 will come out later, a YouTube exclusive. So make sure to do all this YouTube thing, subscribe and everything. I guess I just feel disappointed. We all knew this was coming. part of me is relieved because then you and I don't have to explain to people like they
Yeah.
should just keep Russ, which I get it. Everyone has their own opinion. God bless you all. But, they should just keep Russ when we knew they weren't going to keep Russ. Okay, so that's where my relief comes in, Mace. But today I mostly just feel disappointed after the hope that we all felt when Zach Bye cut in and is like, this is not a drill. Like, drill's over.
People thought the problem had been solved. And that's the thing. And I
Yep.
think we'll dive more into the George Payton angle of this as we get into OBT2. But really, this is a trade that frankly excited almost everybody. So I think it's probably unfair for most people to say, oh, I wouldn't have made that move. Bull plop. That day, almost everybody was on board with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a palpable excitement. I mean, I would say that the Nathaniel Hackett exclamation, ready to hold himself back from lobbing a profanity right there at the dais in the Broncos press conference team room, that probably reflected the way a lot of people felt. Like, okay, you've been through, Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, Brock Osweiler, Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, Brandon Allen, Drew Locke, Brett Rippon, Philip Lindsay starting, but Kendall Hinton actually playing.
Right.
Teddy Bridgewater. Hey, did I name them all, by the way? Did I miss anybody?
I was running down the list. I was like, I think you got them all. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Party. Rock on.
Party on, Garth. David Talks Broncos says the day he was traded was the highest moment of the era.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think in the post-Peyton Manning era, there have been two high points emotionally for Broncos country. And yes, higher than even being the Chiefs last October. One was that moment on draft night 2021 when it seemed like the Broncos were about to trade for Aaron Rodgers, right? And as I've been told, that was something really legitimate that nearly did happen.
Packers backed out that time.
Yeah. And then a year later, actually making the trade for Russell Wilson, which, by the way, came right after Aaron Rodgers signed an extension with the Green Bay Packers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make no mistake, Russell Wilson was plan B. Aaron Rodgers was plan A.
1,000%. Mm-hmm. And then you had to go to plan B. And
Aaron Rodgers would have opened up a whole other set of issues, right?
I wanted Rodgers for the controversy, but I'll say this, like the Rodgers was coming when Stink was texting with him. He said that on the air, so I'm not revealing any secrets. The Packers backed out. The next year, Rodgers backed out. So you had 2 years of pursuing Aaron Rodgers that honestly kind of makes me hate him right now. Others may hate him for different reasons, but for me, I'm just like, he screwed with the Broncos 2 years in a row, man.
Mm-hmm. We used him. Isn't that what people do?
Ooh. It's unnerving when you say that, but it's true, right?
Yeah. Use their interest.
Yep.
And here we are. And the Bronco, and now, I mean, as of this moment, based on what you've got on the roster, Jarrett Stidham is your starting quarterback.
How do you feel about that, Broncos country?
Not good. I
Not good, Bob.
No.
You haven't heard me say that in a day. So
mm-hmm.
Tom wants to know, the initial trade was okay, but why the extension?
We've talked a little bit about this.
Mm-hmm.
I alluded to it on social media a little while ago this afternoon. Look, you're not making the trade without Russell Wilson and his camp agreeing to waive the no trade clause. And a provision of waiving the no trade clause was the promise of an extension. So that's going to happen. Of course, then it's like, okay, why do you wait a few months? Well, part of it was waiting a few months until new ownership got in there, presumably with more cash, because, whoever was going to buy the team was going to be flush with more cash reserves than you had in that current structure with Pat Bowlen Trust ownership, right? So what that was about was the Walton Penner group keeping a promise they had inherited and not wanting to start their stewardship on the foot of saying, okay, well, we promised this to a player and now we're taking it back. Of course, I get the whole discussion of, oh, well, there was the injury guarantee and they threatened to bench him and all that. But, ultimately, they didn't give up the injury guarantee. Now, there was obviously pressure from the NFLPA, but that was part of a negotiation where they knew they weren't necessarily going to get, where the team knew wasn't going to necessarily get the answer that it wanted, rather than simply saying, well, we made this promise to you, or previous ownership made this promise to you, but you know what? No, we're not going to keep that. That would have been far worse than anything that transpired regarding the idea of delaying the injury guarantee on his contract.
And the Walton Penner Group did not want to start their ownership out with that, because even though Mark Rodgers only has one client in the NFL, I'm pretty sure the word would have gotten out that, hey, we had agreed to this, and then these guys buy it, and they didn't. Because for me, if it's not written, it doesn't matter. But I'm also not harvesting the reputation of an NFL franchise.
Yeah, this is,
Oop, Mace bounced out. He'll bounce back in. But yeah, that's the thing with the way it was set up. Yeah, you're here, Mace. Hi.
I never left.
You never left. Okay.
Yeah,
this is airplane mode. That's we always forget that part. But anyway.
Oh, I am in airplane mode.
Oh, okay. Wonder why it popped off then.
I don't know.
Well, it's a live show. This is what you get. And we're here.
We're here for you. Is there a moment you're going to remember about the Russell Wilson era?
Do you want positive or negative?
I guess one that defines it, because the one I put out there, it's kind of it's a visceral thing, but the level of embarrassment this thing ended up reaching. And I think back to Christmas Day against the Rams in 2022, when you're down 10-0 and you are roasted on national television on a holiday by a cartoon starfish after throwing a pick. Yeah. That's not what he wanted to cook. I mean, credit to Bill Fagerbakke for, being really quick on the draw. It certainly helps when you know football, and he knows football. He even played an assistant coach back on the sitcom Coach in the late 80s, early to mid 90s. So he knows the game, knows ball, and being quick enough to have that have that drop in. But that's a moment that I think you look back and say, this is it. It crossed over. It was Russell Wilson and his failures in Denver, Cease, became a national punchline, not just something that was a regional, a regional letdown. It was a joke. I mean, it became the Broncos and Russell Wilson became a catch-all for underachieving football. Right.
So now we deal with it, and now we're here. And again, OBT2 will really unpack the next direction for this team. I would say my defining moment for Wilson is getting yelled at by Sean Payton.
In Detroit, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not a positive. Really, I mean, I want to think of positive. I want to think of there was that one time, but really it's Christmas, and then it's getting yelled at. And it's just sad. That's why today the chat room was saying it's a good day in Broncos country. Okay, I get that sentiment, but it's also a day of going, man, I wish this would have worked. We had different hopes for this thing.
I mean, it's turning the page. I get that part being a good day. It's a sad day that it came to this. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It'll be a new beginning, and maybe it'll be a new beginning with one of those quarterbacks we saw over the weekend in Indianapolis. But as a song lyric from a quarter century ago would say, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. And it seems so bright. Okay, solve this problem for the next several years. Bold talk from Russell Wilson about multiple championships. I mean, he's still having that bold talk about multiple championships. He's talking about 2 in the next 5 years. And I'm thinking, Russ, buddy, man, you have 1 in 12 years, and you're about to be jettisoned and paid to be jettisoned for the second time in 3 years because, oh, by the way, I think it's the number 6 all-time cap hit, even including this $85 million at the top, is Russell Wilson when he got traded from the Seahawks 2 years ago. They absorbed a $26 million cap hit. Of course, the thing that's happened with this cap hit is, the Broncos took the previous record and more than doubled it. You take the top 2 previous largest cap hits, dead money cap hits, and Russell Wilson is more than both of them. The hits for Matt Ryan 2022 and Aaron Rodgers last year when the Packers traded him.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just, it's astounding.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Should George Payton pay for it with his job?
OBT2, I'll have a lot to say about that. So we'll get there. What is Russ going to be Joe Flacco'd? Is he going to be
comeback player of the year?
Maybe. But is he going to be without a team until somebody gets hurt, or now, because we're waiting for quarterback dominoes to fall, right? You and I said that at the combine, like you need the Fields thing to happen. You need the Cousins thing to happen. Honestly, you needed the Russell Wilson thing to happen. The first part's happened, but will Pittsburgh, who now reports saying they didn't like any of the veteran quarterbacks that would be available. Mm-hmm. Okay. Are they off the list for Russell Wilson? Like, what's the future hold for Russ?
I mean, the reports from around Pittsburgh right now are Arthur Smith coming as the offensive coordinator and running it back with Kenny Pickett, and maybe even having Mason Rudolph as the understudy again, right? To Pink Shake as he did down the stretch last year. I mean, I can't imagine that's going to go over well. And is it Steeler Nation or Steeler Country? Because there's a banner on the side that says Steeler Country.
Yes, yeah.
But I feel like I see Steeler
online.
Nation.
It's Steeler Nation, I believe.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, all right. I can't imagine that's going to go over very well. Atlanta looks like they're zeroed in on Justin Fields, if everything is to be believed.
Yep.
You got Las Vegas, you've got New England. I mean, you may be looking at the possibility of Russell Wilson being a bridge quarterback somewhere, right? New England bridge quarterback to Michael Penix Jr., perhaps?
Perhaps, yeah.
I mean, that'd be interesting.
That
Seattle
would be.
Connection for both of them.
Right. What if Penix beat him in camp? Penix's arm. There's nothing wrong with Penix's arm.
The way Russ beat out Matt Flynn back in 2012.
It's the circle of life.
This is what is it that George Lucas said about storytelling? Everything's kind of got echoes.
Rhyme. It rhymes. It's like a poem.
Yes.
Star Wars.
That would be an example of that.
Yeah.
Man alive. If Baker Mayfield leaves Tampa Bay, I mean, do the Bucks kick the tires on him? That's
Bridge again. Yeah. Bridge again.
Mm-hmm. The Bucks were looking at quarterbacks down there too. That another thing that was really interesting about this combine season is there were more teams doing deep dives in the quarterbacks than you would have expected.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And this is part of why the conversation about whether the Broncos need to move up, if they want to get one of these guys, it has to be had, because you may have some teams like Tampa Bay entering the chat, right? If they don't bring back Baker Mayfield, now what is interesting about Tampa Bay is, of course, today they just re-signed Mike Evans, which certainly that's a big contract, but every indication was Mike Evans was only going to go somewhere where there was a proven quarterback in there, right? So does that mean they bring back Baker Mayfield? Or do the Bucks lose Mayfield and decide to go with Russell Wilson? In which case, then the Russell Wilson revenge game would be in Tampa, because the Bucks play in Tampa Bay. If Russell Wilson goes to Atlanta, Pittsburgh, or Las Vegas, the Russell Wilson potential revenge game is in Denver. Oh my gosh.
It was done today. Russell Wilson era is over.
Yep.
Just disappointed. That's the way I'll wrap up today's show. Remember, OBT's 2 is coming. We got a bazillion things to say. Okay. So you want more, you're going to get a lot more.
Can I say something here before we go?
Sure.
I don't want to tell people how to spend their money, But I would say maybe the best move for the next couple of years is don't buy a jersey of a current Broncos quarterback until they've proven they're going to be more than a short-term solution. And I would even say that for if it's a rookie first-round pick, right? I'd say hold back on that. Keep that money in your wallet. Or go buy a John Elway or a Peyton Manning jersey. Heck, I mean, maybe they'll start making Jake Plummer jerseys again. Maybe they'll start making Craig Morton jerseys again, right?
I'd like that.
Yeah. A Craig Morton jersey would be an old school but perfectly cromulent choice.
Be a damn good choice, that's for sure.
Hey, if you want to learn more about Craig Morton, it's in my book, Tales from Denver Broncos Sideline. Just read about the hell on earth he had to go through the week of the AFC Championship game leading up to New Year's Day 1978 to play in that game. How they, the Broncos basically lied to the media, lied to everybody about Morton being in the hospital off and on all week trying to get ready to play that game. And he did, and he came out, had a deep strike to Haven Moses down the right side of the field. Mile High Stadium went crazy. That alone's worth getting the Craig Morton jersey. And he's a good guy, too.
M&M connection. Him and Haven Moses.
Yep. Morton and Moses. That's right. That's right.
We've seen some good football. It's time to see some good football again. It won't happen with Russell Wilson.
Nope. Not in Denver.
Yep.
Okay. That actually the last thing here on this OBT one. Can this get worse? Yes, it can. If Russell Wilson goes somewhere and succeeds, that's going to be a dagger through the heart of Broncos country, man. I don't even want to think about it.
Yep. Well, our Doug Farrar interview, Doug says he can still play. You and I both agree with that. He just can't play here.
Not in this system.
Right. And he can play to a certain level, right?
Yes. But you have to live with the variance, the highs and lows. He is not the size McGrath when things are calm. He's the size McGrath during a 6.0. You got to live with that.
That's what
Sean
it is.
Payton couldn't. And here we are.
And here we go. Orange Blue Today 2 will be exclusive on YouTube. Might throw it on Twitter as well. Anyway, so make sure to do that. But help us out on YouTube by doing the YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. That's right.
Opposite windshield wipers today.
He's Mace. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying we got more coming up. So make sure to do the YouTube things. Thanks for watching OBT. Stay tuned. And would you please